Think we're good to go. All good with you. Just checking in. Shayna, Cameron, we're good to go?
Yes, we're here, June.
Great.
Not really, but I'm going to make it work. So I just need another few minutes to connect, but you can start.
Okay. So you don't need us to slow down, right?
No, if you need to go, go ahead and go.
All right. So welcome, y'all. I'm June Chaos, disability policy consultant, and I'm a contractor for CFILC, the California Disaster Coalition, and I'm the facilitator today for the call. My description today, I have my hair keeps changing. I can't seem to describe it one way one week, and the next it looks different. So this week it's kind of brown and blonde, so streaky, and I don't have any fancy virtual background. It's just my messy office, and I'm wearing a pink Polar Tech jacket because it is cold here, at least cold for LA. Cold meaning you don't want to know. Okay. So as we wait for a few others to join us, let me just share about our upcoming calls. Same time next month, no call. It is a holiday. What holiday is it? Is it Veterans Day? Some holiday in November.
It is Veterans Day, November 11th.
What is it? Say it one more time.
Veterans Day is in November 11th.
Veterans Day. Okay. So we sorry about that. We did not know that at the time, but so no call in November.
Yep.
In December, do a call similar today. It'll be a call focused on emergency prep gift giving. Kind of for people you don't know what to give a gift to. They got everything, they need nothing, or you don't even have a clue what the gift. So we want your feedback. You know, what gifts are good that are emergency focused, that are under $20 or under $50 or under $100. So just think that way. We often don't think about giving those kinds of gifts, but in the past 2 years, some of us have spent a little more time doing that. I've given a few for wedding gifts, and you do seem to get a lot of attention. So for January, that will be the rescheduling of the November call, and that'll be January 13th. Power planning resilience, coping with power outages, and that'll be really getting into the weeds about the complexity of planning. And we have 3 speakers, Mary Lou Breslin, Lex Frieden from Texas, and Laura Haverson from Texas. Lex and Laura have lived through a lot of the Texas prolonged power outages. So, and Mary Lou, I know, has done some good personal preparation. So it should be an interesting discussion. And you can check out the archives. We've got a new process for these calls. The archives will be posted on YouTube almost immediately after the call. And the link for those will be put in chat. Cameron's going to put that in chat. So today, we're focused on, there's an app for that. We'll ask you all for your input. And at the end of the session, we'll do a poll to get your feedback. And if the feedback, a poll is not accessible to you, I will post a Survey Monkey that you can also use to give us feedback. And you know by now that feedback is for us to not only learn from you to make things, to improve what we do, but also to fund what we do. So today is an opportunity to engage in, I guess we call it peer-to-peer learning in terms of our own disaster resilience and what we use in our preparation and response. So today, just want you all to tell us about your apps that you use. Two kinds of apps. One for your own personal preparedness. And the second group of apps will be for, I think, to use as a responder. And some of them, I think, blend and can be used for both. So just be prepared to tell us about the name of the app, what platform it's used on, iOS or Android or both, why you find it helpful. Is it free or is there a cost? And are there any accessibility issues that you've identified? So you'll have 2 to 3 minutes to share. Please use the chat to put in any links you've got about the app, as well as discussion, and use it to ask questions. And we'll voice any question in chat for people who don't have access to chat. You can also use a hand raising function if you don't feel comfortable just chiming in, but feel free to chime in, ask each other questions. This really is a chat, a casual discussion. So who's the brave one to start this off?
Hi, June. I guess I'll start. This is Angie Magnus. Hi.
Great.
Little bit information about me. I am the community education coordinator at Access to Independence, the Center for Independent Living in San Diego. 2 apps that I have on my phone. One is actually local to San Diego County called San Diego Emergency, and that was put together by San Diego OES. And that gives local updates for the county of any emergencies that may be occurring. Also provides emergency kit information, updates on the progress of various things that are going on around the county. And then another app that I have on my phone, I'm not exactly sure of the full name of it. It just says earthquake, and it's a big red square with a thing that looks like a pulse. And that gives me earthquake information from any earthquakes that occur in California. So those are the 2 that I have on my phone. Oh, I also have a from the local power company, SDG&E. They have an app as well called SDGE Alerts, and that provides power outage information. So if you have a scheduled power outage, then that alert will let you know that it might be happening in your area. So those are the 3 that I have.
Oh, that's a really good one.
And those are on iPhone. Yeah, on my iPhone.
The last one you mentioned.
Yes.
Is that an alert you sign up for, or is that an app?
SDG&E Alerts is downloadable from the Apple Store. It's free. And SDG&E, our power company, created it. So it's for San Diego County.
Oh. You know, for all of the CFIOC staff online here today, do other utilities have similar apps to what Angie is describing? Do you know?
This is June. This is Sydney. I don't believe that PG&E has an app. I use an emergency alerts app out of San Diego County, but of course that's not tied to power shutoffs. So right now, I don't believe that PG&E has an app for their power shutoff events.
That's correct. This is Jan with ILCKC. PG&E does not have a power outage app. What they do have, though, through PG&E is a report it. So if you see a down power line, they have an app that you could actually report it so that they can go and search for it. That's the only thing that they do provide for individuals in PG&E region that, especially in high fire risk areas that may, or even in the city for that matter, that may see a down power line.
Jan, remind me, where are you located?
Kern County.
Kern, okay. So for PG&E, can you sign up for alerts and warnings?
Only through the website. By putting in a specific address on PG&E's website, but not through an app.
Right. Got it. All right.
And then if I could add also, like Angie mentioned about that earthquake app, I use the same one. And we also, for Kern County, a Valley Air app is what it's called, which gives your air quality conditions, especially for those with, respiratory issues or severe asthma, anything to that effect. Excuse me, I'm waiting on a phone call. Let me take this.
So let's go back to Angie, the earthquake app. The one I have is the California one, I think, called My Shake. Is that the same one you have?
That's a different one, actually.
Oh.
Let me see. Let me see if I can pull it up on the, get a specific name.
My Shake was supposed to
So it's called My Earthquake Alerts and Feed. That's the one that I use. It's a red, it has a red square, like I said, and then in the middle of it has a white circle with like a pulse kind of a.
Maybe, I don't know.
But it's free.
Can you put that link? Can you put that link in chat?
Okay.
And
sure.
Okay, back to you, Jan. You had to take the call, and you were talking about you sign up for PG&E alerts through the PG&E website by putting in your address. That's not an app; it's an alert.
Correct.
Okay. And then we were talking about earthquake apps because many of us are from California. Are any of you using that My Shake app?
I have that one as well. I don't like it as well as the other earthquake app that Angie even mentioned.
And can you talk more about that? Tell us more.
About the earthquake app?
Well, no, Jan said she didn't like it as much. So just tell tell us about the differences.
This is the only one I've tried, so I can't compare it to anything else, honestly. I had just heard about it in a webinar or something this is just the one that I've used. I don't have any experience with any other ones, so I can't really honestly compare this one to any other that are out there. So.
Okay.
Yeah, and my comparison is the My Earthquakes I like better than My Shake, or is that what it's called, My Shake? Yeah, I don't care for that one as well as My Earthquake.
And Jan, can you say why?
In comparison between the two apps, My Shake and My Earthquakes, I prefer the My Earthquakes, the same app that Angie mentioned.
Okay, my understanding is that My Shake was supposed to give you a couple seconds notice. It's the first app that California promoted that said, this will give you some notice. Now, I've had it on my phone for several earthquakes and it's never worked. I've never gotten any kind of momentary notice that there'll be an earthquake in a second or two.
Hi, June. This is Shayna. Russell has his hand up for a question.
Great.
I just wanted to see maybe if I was able to find the MyShake app by searching, but I was not able to find the other one mentioned. Is it called My Earthquakes or is it just called Earthquakes? Or
it's called My Earthquake.
Okay, My Earthquake.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. I'm going to try to locate these and place them in the chat as much as I am able to do. I'm doing this in a different window, but I also wanted to mention that just as the conversation started, and I was hearing that folks were sharing information about their utilities and outages. I did some quick searching. The only app offered by SMUD, my local electric utility, is literally a mobile pay app. So there is no mention of any kind of emergency push notifications that could come out from that app, sadly. And I also did some searching for a Sacramento County emergency app, and there is none as well. However, I do know that I have signed up for text alerts from Sacramento County. I'd love to hear maybe if other folks have examples of apps for their local region. That would be really cool too.
Kern County Fire Department, which is connected with our OES department, we have what's called Ready Kern, and it is not an app, but it is a reverse 911 system. So if you sign up for that, then of course you could get that information directed depending on how you sign up and what type of alerts you want or need. So that's a Kern County sign up. But we also, here in Kern County, we also have the Smart 911 program. As opposed to just having 911, you can sign up for Smart 911 and provide all of your personal information as much as you want to provide to first responders. So if you have that, you could, let a first responder know where you keep your medication or what animals you have. You can download pictures. So everyone in the, that was responding to that 911 call would be getting that information, and it's kept just briefly to first responders, like for the first 30 minutes. So by the time they respond to a home, what that being police department, fire department, ambulance, they're having that pertinent information for that household. And even if you're outside of your house and let's say, have a heart attack on street, they will know where you're located at because of the GPS. So, which is interesting.
So let's stay with that for just 1 second. Alexandra, I'm going to call on you in a second to talk about how Missoula is using the Smart 911. But do any of the rest of you have Smart 911 in your local jurisdiction?
Yes, we do.
Yes.
Russell. That's part of whenever I signed up on sacramentoready.org, it also signed me up for both text alerts and reverse 911.
Mm-hmm.
And not all counties have Smart 911, which is
this
the
is
unfortunate
different.
thing.
It's different. It's not reverse 911.
Right.
This is Smart 911.
Correct.
Angie, you were shaking your head.
Yeah. Yes, so San Diego does have Smart 911, and basically it just alerts, I think, the dispatcher. When you call 911, your information's in their database. So the dispatch can relay that to first responders who might be responding to a call from your home. I have signed up for it, so they know that I have 3 dogs and that there are 4 people who live in my household. They know it asks you for any information that you want to provide. So, you don't have to give any information that you don't want to give. But if I call 911 from my phone number, the phone numbers that I put into their system, either my cell or my home, if I call 911 from that, then the dispatch can then tap into the Smart 911 and all the information that I've provided to the database, that there are 4 people who live in my home, that there are animals that we have there. You can also provide information about your disability. So, if someone is maybe has a hearing impairment or visual, you can put that into the system, and the dispatch will notify that to the responders that there's someone in that household who has this particular disability, or so you can give any information that you are comfortable giving that the dispatch then relays to the first responder. But I wanted to make a comment also about what Jan had mentioned. San Diego also has the reverse 911. It's called Alert San Diego. And they also have a system similar to that called Accessible San Diego. And what they'll do is for people who sign up on their Alert San Diego, if they check a box that says that they have a visual or hearing type of impairment, then that they will send a video of an ASL interpreter signing what the emergency is. So, and also the phone would vibrate, or, there's certain things that they can do to make it a lot more accessible to people who have disabilities, that they may not hear the phone or be aware of an emergency that might be happening. So they have other options for people who have particular disabilities to alert them. Excellent.
And yeah, in 2007 wildfires down there in San Diego, that's how the problem was. The problem was identified. That the reverse 911 product was not reaching people with any kind of hearing and some kind of visual seeing issue. So at that point, they actually did a lot of work to get to what you're describing now. So it's really a nice model to point to, because they did a really nice job of, embedding interpreters into videos and captioning them and doing a lot of things they needed to do to make the text or the audio more accessible. So good for them. Back to Smart 911. Alexander, do you want to talk about Missoula?
Sure. I mean, Smart 911 is a commercial product sold by Rave company in Massachusetts. And it's available if your jurisdiction has bought into the system. It's got a lot of great features for that are all automated. For example, if you have to update the information in it every 6 months, they send you a notice and you update the information, and they always seem to be futzing with their pages for putting information in, but it's useful, as folks were saying. You know, you can put in pictures, you can tell what bedroom your kids sleep in, you can describe your pets, etc. And what's nice is that the information doesn't go old. Jurisdictions can buy one or more components of the system, and Missoula County in Montana has bought all of them, which is useful because, I mean, the basic one, I think, I'm not sure it sends notifications. The basic one, you know, if you call 911 from a registered number, they register not phones, they don't register people. If you then all the information you've provided shows up on the dispatcher's screen, which the dispatcher can then relay to the first responder as they're going to your location. And then you can opt in to getting notifications, push notifications. And I would urge you, even if your jurisdiction, and I'm using that because it's not all counties, sometimes it's cities, sometimes there's a couple of states, the whole state has Smart 911. Even if your local jurisdiction doesn't have, hasn't bought into the Smart 911 system, if you're in another jurisdiction, for example, if you're in King County, Washington, which is Seattle, and something goes on, if you call 911 from the number that you've registered, you know, from your cell phone, it'll be at this case, they'll still know, and you'll still get notifications. I'm not too sure about that last statement I made. It's like, I'm not sure that, I think it will pull up, will pull up on the dispatcher screen. So if you're out of your local jurisdiction, it's going to show up. But what's nice is that if you have agreed to receive notifications, and this is you have to agree to it. They aren't just going to do it. I mean, they're very into privacy. One of my friends here was driving through a county in Idaho, and she got a notification about black ice on the road, which probably saved her life because she slowed down and went around the corner, and there was the black ice, and there were cars off the road, etc. So you'll get those notifications if you've agreed to get notifications in other jurisdictions. It seems like a very useful system overall, especially if your county has all the components. One of the ways Missoula uses it is if you've signed up to have one of the features, and for example, there's a gas leak in one area, or there's going to be a power outage in one area, they will just alert the people in that area. It's one of the other features of the system. So it's worth looking up. You can get more information, just go to smart911.com. But the ability to work within other jurisdictions, I think, is quite handy.
Yeah,
it isn't just a half-hour time frame. I think it's half an hour. The information goes off the dispatcher's screen is half hour after the response is finished. So if they're at your house for like 4 hours, it's not going to go off till the whole response is finished, but then it goes away. They are very into privacy, which I think is a great feature of the system, and are always looking for suggestions for improvement. I mean, we've liked it here. I mean, one of the ways they've advertised it here is like, they go to like public fairs, etc. But when you renew your vehicle registration, they actually had a form in there to sign up for Smart 911. So it's handy. And it's free to the user. It's your jurisdiction that pays for it. It's free to the user. And I think that that's important to let people know that you don't pay for it.
So we tried to get LA to buy it, but it is priced by population. And so the price for the city of LA or the county was huge. And they chose not to. However, because LA County is made up of 88 cities, I live in the city of LA, but if I drive 3 miles east, I'm in the city of Culver City, and they have Smart 911. So it pays me to have it on my phone for when I travel, drive, whatever. And I think the other item that we have thought was extremely important was that this is a mainstream product, and it is a great alternative to registries for people with disabilities that don't work. And we can have a whole call on that. But the fact that anybody can register or, information, it's mainstream. So whether if you have a disability, fine, tell them what you think they need to know, but it's not special. And they prompt you for updates at least twice a year. So although it costs the jurisdiction money, it is a nice product. So.
Well, the idea, this is Alexandra, the idea that everybody needs a safety profile, as you're saying, it's a mainstream product. Everybody needs a safety profile, not just people with disabilities. And it gets out of this whole special needs bullshit, which I think is really important. And as I said, the company is quite responsive to making changes. And with California, I don't know, there may be folks already working with RAVE from different parts of California. I know Missoula County was an early adopter and has a great relationship with RAVE, and they always put in the suggestions that the emergency management people who maintain the stuff here for our county do. I mean, they're very, very responsive. I would think California could have a lot of clout with this one. And there's ways, I'm not exactly sure about the funding for it, but there are pots of money that emergency management agencies can get into to help them pay for things like Smart 911. I think that it'd be interesting to see what the LA differences were, because June, didn't you do some work with LA County, and it was just going to cost millions and millions and millions of dollars for them to set up their own separate and unique system that was just going to be for people with disabilities?
Yes. So that's why this is a nice solution. I just, back to Angie and Jan, I did put up my Shake information app in the chat, and what it says is when a seismic event happens, the app will use the phones of everybody who has it to try to measure the distance and prevalence of the impact of the quake, which is interesting. By using everyone's sensors, it captures data that seismologists normally have access to. Now, I thought it was a warning kind of an app as well, but I'm not reading that here right now. So how about the rest of you, your favorite apps? How many of you have the FEMA mobile app on your phone?
I think I used to have it and just recently took it off, to tell you the truth.
Yeah, I have it. I can post information, and I haven't found it particularly helpful, but I haven't been in the middle of a major earthquake or fire or whatever for a while. So anybody use the FEMA app?
June, this is Shayna. Russell has his hand up for a question or a comment.
Go, Russell.
Thanks. I was just going to ask too, for these apps, particularly the FEMA app, would it be possible to get, maybe we should make some connections with the developers of these apps and ask them what kind of data sources they're using. You know, from someone who's done a little bit of IT work in the long ago past, I would think that a lot of these apps are they're only going to be as good as the data that comes in. And with something like FEMA, they've got so many sources and points of information that they could bring in, I think. So that's actually, I'm kind of sad to hear that folks are saying that they've had it maybe and didn't find it to be terribly informative or helpful. But, you know, I think a couple of things. One is the fewer apps we have to use, the better. And two, the better data we can get, because that's really what this conversation I think is about, is being informed and being informed as quickly as possible. So I'm curious as to, has anyone found of any of the things that you do use, is there something that you feel is helping you currently? And that's, I kind of had to ask myself that question. I'm like, well, I don't really know the answer to that. One thing I can say that does help me some is transportation-based apps that I rely on public transportation a lot. So having apps that help me understand if part of the network is not working appropriately or if there's some kind of traffic issue. But those are really surface level things. I would love to have an app that would let me know, like, hey, oh, actually, my Alexa does this for me. It lets me know when there is bad air quality, and also gives me a variety of weather alerts. And so in a way, I guess I am getting notified of those things. And I think that the Alexa actually does a tremendous job of kind of aggregating a larger number of various things. But I'm just curious, has anyone seen anything, an experience like that for specifically for their phone?
So just to close the loop on your FEMA app question, they do tap many databases, and they do give real-time alerts from the National Weather Service. And they do give information about local open emergency shelters and disaster recovery centers.
Right.
And also, I think it's valuable if you're in an affected area, you can connect the register regarding disaster assistance online, like individual assistance. So that's valuable.
Yeah, that sounds like a tremendous app. Then I'm definitely.
I'll put that in the chat.
This is Alexandra, June. In the FEMA app, you can enter up to 5 locations to receive alerts to places you care about. And you can pick the kind of alerts you want, and they're based on the kind of disaster it is. If it's a flood, if it's other kind of weather events, there's nothing like a power outage, but you can pick so you're not getting overwhelmed by everyone, and just put in 5 different locations. I mean, I think they can be useful. I mean, I'm trying to remember if it's the FEMA one that comes out with this outrageously loud siren. I hope not, but I've got one on mine that I mean, it scared me to death when it came out, because I had never received one before, and I didn't recognize how to turn it off. I'm not sure the FEMA one does that, but I mean, the FEMA one's easy and free, and you can customize it by location and type of disaster you want to be alerted to. So it's worth having.
Russell, my favorite app for transportation is a couple of times ago when I used to travel and spend a lot of time in Washington, D.C. It was an app for the Bend Metro, and it let me know what elevators were down. And that was priceless, because nothing like wasting a half hour having to get on and off a train because the elevators don't friggin' work.
Yeah.
I don't know if Bart has that or not.
This is Alexandra again. Russell's point about working with the developers, and some of them might be outside what you normally think about. It's like the React app is oriented toward campuses. And, you know, I would think that that would have some features in, you know, React Mobile, you know, for, I mean, I think student safety, walking around campus at night, but that kind of developers, has anybody got a list of developers of these things? Because you're bringing the same message to them around accessibility. To do it, be interesting for California to do a developers conference on this one, or to have somebody do a developers conference. But I think thinking outside the box on this one's important, you know, because React is oriented toward campuses.
The developers, I find you can find them if you go to the App Store in Apple, and then you click on the developer's website. It does give you a lot more information about who they are.
Also, just very quickly, I'm putting a big tag on my own to-do list to bring part of this conversation into the fourth Thursday Disaster Strategies Coalition call as well. I think that there are a lot of things I've heard. Alexandra, your point about campuses, especially university campuses, having approaches that are very unique and kind of elaborate is very true. So perhaps some of these problems and some of these like thoughts and conversations just need to be had in the right way, right? Maybe there's a, like you said, a developers conference waiting to happen. A new tool or a new set of tools, you know, can be developed.
This is Alexandra. I've also found, I mean, Esri's got some amazing apps, and they've also got a big emergency management users section. I mean, getting to Esri to incorporate the kind of accessibility issues across their stuff, because there's so much more than just a mapping companies these days, and they have access to such great data sources. They're actively interested, and they're in California. And you've already had somebody, I think, on one of these other calls from Esri talking about it. It's like some of their just apps in general that folks can use are just incredibly powerful. So that's a developer I would want in across the board. And they work with so many developers and work with emergency management.
Vincent, I see your hand up.
Yeah, my daughter's going to Washington State, and she's studying communications and journalism. And she made a website. She shared it with me, and I told her, your website's completely inaccessible. She goes, well, my teacher didn't really focus anything on that. So that's another thing too, is getting it on the ground floor, because accessibility has to start from the beginning. When I went to the CSUN conference, they were talking about accessibility in apps, accessibility in websites and web pages, and also video. So those issues are starting to come up. But again, you know, there has to be a way to kind of get the people to buy in on it. and more or less like change the thought process of focusing on the accessibility first before design and how it looks and whatnot. So yeah, it would be a good plan on there. And especially if we get in on the ground floor with colleges, we could train the future generation to go through and try and, you know, do that. And there are quick add-ons you can add onto your phone to check to see if apps are accessible or not also.
How say more about that, Vincent?
Yeah, let me try and look for it on my phone.
Okay.
Like I put it on there, and then of course it kept popping up everywhere, and I turned it off. What is this thing? Oh, shoot, I gotta find it and share it with you guys.
Take your time.
Oh, accessibility. It's an accessibility scanner. Let me try and look in the store for it. Maybe find the link. Ability. There we go. And this is for a Android phone. Oh, that's it. It is made by Google. Google made it. So I think if you just go in, and I'll put it in the, let me try and find a link on a web page to link it up for you guys.
I have one app that I love and I hate. And it's called Citizens app. See, citizen, like the word, apostrophe S. Somebody could get that link and post it. It's only available in maybe bigger cities, but I like it because it tells me where there's a problem, a local fire, somebody been robbed, a big car accident, with video sometimes, and a whole lot of community input. But it's also quite aggravating because it kind of reminds you, if you're under any false belief that you lived in a safe area, you don't. Or what I like about it is I was once in New York City, you know, going to meet a friend, and it came up and it said, you know, man with a knife 2 blocks from you. And I just avoided that and went around that area. And I was grateful for not having to roll right into the middle of that hoo-ha. So it's good and it's bad. It monitors police scanners, and it also gives me a lot of COVID information data, local LA data every single day. So, I mean, if you want that kind of thing, it's good. If you don't want to be reminded of all the mess going on around you, it's not so good.
Does anybody use Waze for traffic too? That's the one I always use. And that one's pretty good too. It's rerouted me a few times around situations. And you could have Boy George as your voice on it now. They're offering that for a limited amount of time. So Boy George tells me where to go.
Well, that's definitely worth it, Vincent.
Yeah.
The thing I don't like about it is in big cities, it's got some pretty dangerous left-hand turns in there.
I never mind the left-hand turns, and I just keep driving and make it reroute me. I'll start kind of going my own route sometimes too. Yeah, especially in the city. You don't want to make a left-hand turn across a major road.
Right, 4 lanes of traffic. Are you out of your mind?
Yeah.
This is Todd. I'm curious, do they take into account where there are and are not curb cuts accurately with any of the, with that, especially that one, because I hear that one used a lot?
I haven't checked it, but I'm going to the city next week, so it might be something to do.
Oh, that's some tedious work. I know that Disability Rights Washington was looking at this broad-based lack of curb cuts, and I think one of the issues being that, especially on those precarious left-hand turns, is who might be in the box when that turn is happening, etc. So it would be that'd be a real nice safety feature if they could keep it current.
Yes, that would be great. As somebody who had the contract 1 year to map the curb cuts in the city of Santa Monica, that is one heck of a project to keep current.
I think maybe Google might be the one to tap for that, because they do all the routing and mapping, and I think they do it for Waze too.
And you know, Todd and I actually use, when I'm going to somewhere I don't know, I do use Google Earth to figure out where the curb cuts are. For in the distance from where I park to where I need to be, particularly if it's someplace I'm not taking public transit to and I don't know, but I know that parking is not exactly next door.
Yeah, this is Todd. I love the feature, any feature that will help you find a safe way to get on from the sidewalk to the street and back again. My bigger concern is, as we go forward and cars become more autonomous, that there's accuracy in keeping vehicles from not intersecting with you in the intersection.
Yeah, I used to ride a bicycle. Well, I think we've had one employee get hit by a car, and I've had 2 or 3 consumers get hit by cars, because when people are making left-hand turns, they're not looking right.
Yep.
And when I rode a bicycle, what I would do is I get right in their view. So when they're making that turn, they could kind of see me.
Yeah.
And then right when they look over to see me, I go, see? I point at them. That's where you're going.
That's right. Give them a little shock. That helps them remember.
Yeah.
It's very scary out there. I don't move until I establish eye contact, which means I don't move a lot. How about the rest of you? Apps.
Are these just helpful apps in general or related to emergencies?
Well, emergencies were, we've kind of done a broader net, but frankly, it is an emergency if in your transportation system an elevator is down. It is a personal emergency, or, there's a fire 2 blocks from you. That is an emergency. So yeah, anything like that.
I know for people that are hard of hearing, I've been utilizing the Otter app for people, like if there's a loud environment or whatnot, or emergency, what type of situations. The Otter app's great. It'll transcribe everything for you in real time. You'll get close to all the right information, but they usually fix it pretty well. It is a pay to play. You get a certain amount for free in the beginning. And if you're going to school, you use that as a, an accommodation to get that on there. And then you don't need a note taker. But especially in emergency situations with loud noise and whatnot, the Otter app really helps out. I don't know if that part of it, but.
I have to second that. I am a turbo use of Otter. I use it every single day. And I have used it to communicate with people who are deaf. And it's worked really well. And they've adopted it since. It makes some communication in an emergency really easy. And also, there's nothing like 4 hearing people and 1 deaf person at a dinner, for example, at a nickel conference or somewhere. It totally brings them back into the social interaction when there's no interpreter. So I mean, I love that. That is my very favorite. It is an app. I use it for note taking. I use it for everything. I love it.
Yeah, like last weekend we were at a wedding with my family, and my mom's hard of hearing, and she has awesome hearing aids. You know, she's got her big hearing aids, and they're awesome and everything. But in a loud environment, it's useless. So she was sitting there with her confused look. I finally recognized it after, you know, being her son for like 40 years, 40 more. And it took me like, you know, within the last 5 years, I was able to tell when she couldn't hear something and she just kind of zoned out. So I just turned on the app, put it on her lap, and she could hear the wedding vows, all that stuff. Cause like people are laughing and it's like, well, I don't know what they're laughing at. I'm just going to kick back. And it really helped out for her. So.
Excellent. So glad you brought that up. I can't believe it never occurred to me. It's like so much a part of who I am, what I do.
Changes are happening fast. Yeah, this is Todd and June. You know, you and I have alluded to this many times in the past, but as our cities and local communities become more of, I don't want to say smart cities because that I think term is being way overused, but as the environmental controls are becoming more community-based, kind of like what you'd have in your house, I think the abilities for us to be at the planning table is going to be really incredibly important, because the nuances that city engineers are going to forget as they're helping folks with these apps is that the geolocators and the things that people may not consider to be a danger if you're doing a mass evacuation would definitely be an issue for some of us. And depending on the circumstances for anyone. So I think going forward, I think as the city engineers start to interface with the developers of the applications, having a seat at that table with them would give them a perspective that they probably overlook.
Yeah.
Universal design, that's the key.
Universal design.
You know, have it work for everybody. That's Ramps right. Don't just help people in wheelchairs, you know.
Exactly. Yeah.
I want to go back to communication accessibility and Victor's point about Otter. I had on my phone over the years, and now they kind of disappeared, apps that had pictures on them. So people who didn't speak the language I spoke, you know, I could still communicate with. I mean, I can still use Google Translate, but if they're not readers, picture apps. Does anyone use a good picture app for emergency communication?
I'm looking for it. I know, picture board. I was gonna say picture board. Todd's got it down. That's the keep it simple.
Well, but Todd, do they have an app? Because we paid for those cards. You're on mute. You're on mute.
No, I was agreeing with you, June. And we were just talking about this the other day. As you know, I was in an exercise with a lot of people with different disabilities, and that's absolutely correct. I mean, think about how much broader. I mean, this card, you know, is only this big, and one of the complaints is that a lot of people wouldn't even be able to see these images if once you get to be a certain age, like myself.
Correct.
It's hard to see some of that, but a tablet, which we had plenty of in the shelter for the exercise, or even a cell phone that could go through thousands upon thousands of pictorials, probably by just using your language and your voice, would be fast and so effective. Because in that moment when everybody is so anxious because they're either going into a shelter, they're in an emergency situation, to be able to access that image really quickly would be ideal.
I bet there is out there. I just didn't have time to do an exhaustive list. the other wish app I need is one that will translate my speech to ASL. Is there an app for that?
Nope. ASL's too, sorry, I studied ASL. That was my major in when I went to school. ASL has too much flavor to it. So they're having a hard time catching the idiosyncrasies of people signing, and the language is changing all the time, especially with the advent of phones, because more people are doing one-handed sign language now. So yeah, more would be here. More is here now. So everything changes. So they've been trying to map it and do it for years. They say they got it. I don't know, because you also have regional signs. There's no such thing as universal sign language. It's all, like American Sign Language is an example. We have everybody that's not from San Francisco does SF here as an example. All the people from San Francisco do SF here. So it's just like one little change on there. And the computer programming or the artificial intelligence just really isn't there yet. I use what is it called? I go through and I use ASLU, and then I look up the signs, and then that's how I was teaching people when I was working with sign language. And that's a web page by a guy from Sacramento. Let me try and look it up. Local. And I'll put the link in there.
And June, this is Todd. One of the things that we were doing here before the pandemic was trying to have emergency credentialing for sign language interpreters, like Arizona has done, but with our own local flavor. It takes exactly what Vincent has said, is that people from out of state are not going to know what Puyallup is. It's a city named after an Indian tribe here. So a lot of those details are really nuanced and really important. But the one thing we are going to teach, and we're already starting to have some groups, is common gestures to be able to use. And that's going to open up another can of worms, where we want to find common gestures that may be multicultural, multi-language. But for just standard ASL, having common gestures that we can use to kind of keep it, at least have a semi-accurate start of a conversation before we can actually have those credentialed or vetted sign language interpreters there.
Hmm.
Yeah, and they changed it. When I first started taking the program, it was 2 years of deaf studies and deaf culture in American Sign Language. And then it was 2 years of like hardcore interpreting school. In the middle of the program, they go, no, it's 4 years. You have to have a bachelor's in anything. And then you take the interpreting school, in which, I got a daughter, I had to make money somehow. So that didn't work out on the interpreter side, but I'm here.
This is Todd. And one of the most frustrating things there is trying to find a program. Up here in Seattle and in the Washington area, it's more difficult. When I talk to June and folks from California, I'm envious when you are able to, with such a huge population, get the amount of sign language interpreters that you need. I believe the training programs are a lot more available. Whatever you do, learn from our mistake and make sure that those programs stay intact. And if you can, encourage them to consider not putting people through a doctorate degree to be able to do American Sign Language. We're so desperate for teachers in Oregon that they're letting people without a college degree start to help out in the school system. It's a necessity due to a disaster that needs to be taken into consideration.
And it's a culture in itself too. So, that's one big major thing on there.
So two things. One, so Dawn, heads up, I'd like you to talk to us more about what you posted in chat. And if you don't want to, I'll read what you said. But Todd, one of the issues of pictures and sign language is that when we really user test them for understanding, they're all over the map in terms of reliability. What we think is clear to us is not clear to someone else. So whether it's the key signs or key pictures, you have to be really careful. I once used what I thought was a very clear picture of a shower. The showers are over there.
I remember that. And
somebody thought that the shower was radiation raining down on them. So
it's exactly what you say. The important stuff that it really needs to be taken into consideration. And boy, oh boy, do we have a lot of people that have their different expertises that are going to take part in that. But again, some communication, if we can keep it from being dangerous, will be a great thing, you know, until we actually get, it's not going to be official or authentic without having those people that are trained to do it. But in a pinch, a piece of paper for somebody who can read and a pencil is a great assistive technology.
So Dawn, do you want to talk about My Tune Radio app? Dawn wrote in chat, I thought this was a great idea. My Tune Radio app, you can listen to radio stations from around the world. Go ahead, Dawn. Oops. Can't hear you. Radio stations from around the world, including radio stations from out of the area that may have info about an event when local stations in my remote area are down. That's a really great idea. My Tuner Radio. Wow.
We need NOAA weather on every one of those.
And actually, that's where I do get the siren that Alexandra mentioned. And I also get a siren on some of the local alert and warnings that I've signed up for. Very annoying sirens, for example, Amber Alerts in LA come with sirens if you sign up for the local alerts. So I'll be outside and all of a sudden my phone goes off and I look around and a lot of people's phones are going off at the same time. Dawn also mentioned apps from the Red Cross. And they have a really good— My name is Michael. They have a really good first aid alert or first aid app. I'll try and find it.
But June, Todd, just curious what your feelings are for the Safe and Well Red Cross app for locating folks.
A Safe and Well app is what the Red Cross uses to have people enter information when they're looking for someone. I think it's fine. You know, Facebook has one of those as well now, and there's a lot of those around, but I think Safe and Well was one of the early ones that I guess is still very much used, but some people like the Facebook app that lets you tell people, guess we had an earthquake here, but I'm okay. I'm okay.
Hi, June, this is Shayna. We have a hand up. Russell has a comment or a question.
Go, Russell.
Thanks. I was just going to say that I think there are some really great ideas. I think that one of the things that's really great to focus on is some of these communication apps. I've heard some great ideas about, you know, maybe if there's, I'm thinking whenever Todd pulled out the reference card there, I would love to have an app where I could just say a word and a picture would show, like on my phone, symbolizing. Because for me, manipulating something like that medical visual language translator would be very hard. I don't have, the dexterity necessary to pull out a card like that. But if I had an app where I could say, exit there, then it would, pull up the words as I was saying. So anyway, I'm getting excited because I think we need to maybe find some developers that might be on task for being able to help fill in some of these things that we're not finding.
I love that idea of voicing something that could turn into a picture. I think we're a ways away, but they. Let's see, Angie has her hand up. Go ahead.
Hi. So I had recently come across an app that's used in emergency shelters, and it's called the Show Me Emergency App. And it's a picture app for people who may be nonverbal or maybe have a difficult time communicating. I don't know if we've used it in our emergency shelters, but it's an app that I came across recently that I thought I'd mention, but it's called Show Me for Emergencies. And it's it's on mass.gov, mass.gov. So I don't know much about it, but it looks like it would be another ways of communicating to people who may be nonverbal or may be more comfortable using pictures to communicate. Or
good idea. It's also available in a flip
in
spiral.
a book. Yes.
And, I know that North Carolina has those in all their caches, their supply trailers.
Yeah, I don't know if we use it here, but I know they have an app. So
I see Dawn says, safe and well. It used to be a lot more user-friendly, but since they changed things, it's not nearly as user-friendly as it used to be. It took 2 weeks to get a response from them when it used to be instantaneous. I'm planning on talking with them about this in the near future, them being the Red Cross. I used to use Safe and Well site to do emergency communication drills with different agencies. And we used it to be able to account for every employee, client, etc., within a few minutes after an earthquake. Now it isn't as effective. Sad. Thanks for the input.
Hey, June, it's Todd. If I could give a quick response for Dawn and for Russell. You and I have been working with Mary Casey Lockyer and other folks within disability integration within the Red Cross. And I think we have heard that there's some major things coming from an IT perspective. This would be a perfect opportunity for Dawn's input there. To make sure, especially as a user, I think they could, if she was available, to really give them some granular detail, and the feedback would be hugely beneficial for everybody. And to Russell's point about finding a developer, my goodness, I mean, you and I, June, have talked for years about what Code for America has done and evolved into. Boy, if we could locate someone who could help us out with these things. So we're working directly with a developer. I think Russell's right. This would give us a fantastic opportunity to tailor things that take into consideration every possible disability, every possible barrier, and avoid them right from the start.
Thanks. And again, I don't want to detract from the conversation too much, but I definitely would like to see that we have some kind of action item steps that come out of this particular kind of conversation that we could bring to the fourth Thursday systems change focused call. So I'm very excited, and I think maybe the core nexus of the folks here could actually get some of that done. So
And Russell, I want to underline one more thing for your Thursday calls is every utility should have an app. Like what?
Agreed.
I mean,
Agreed.
actually, we don't have to do that. They have to do it.
They have to do it. And moreover, if we need to pursue statewide legislation to force them to do it, then we need to do it. Because I think you're absolutely right. I would say not only did it do our utilities, but I would say our counties really should have something as well, just so that we're able to quickly access that information. Anyway.
So June, this is Bruce. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi. One of the things that I wanted to sorry, I'm just seeing my camera here. I'm not normally just on my laptop, but the San Bernardino County Ready SB County app is, I think, a pretty good app. I've used it before due to the wildfires that we've had up, and just kind of really to test it to make sure that it works. I don't know if you can see any of this, but it has here down at the bottom a my status button. And if you hit that one button, it takes you to a page where if you've entered in all of your contacts, names, and numbers, with one button, you can send an I'm okay. I don't know how well you can see this or not, but I'm okay or I'm not okay and I need help, right? And with one button, one click of either one of those buttons, it'll send a message that you type in here to everybody as like a text message all at once. So if I need help, I can type need help, fire, can anyone help me evacuate? And with one button, I can send that out to everybody on my contact list in one shot. And it uses text messaging, so it uses a lot less bandwidth. So if there's been an earthquake or something and voice calls aren't going through, the text messages a lot of times will go through. And this is the Ready SB County app. I don't know if anybody's heard of it. I know there's a similar Orange County app that does a very similar thing. So hopefully all the rest of the counties have something close.
You know, Bruce, that is enormously impressive. And just think if we could combine that with a smart 911 application, that takes care of the old-fashioned special needs registry, awful solution. This would be a real-time way for people to communicate. I need help, and I'm a wheelchair user, and I live on the third floor of an elevator building. Help. And the power is out. And it's been out for 72 hours. Whatever.
Exactly, yeah.
I love that. I haven't seen that before.
This is Todd in June. I mean, you guys are at the pinnacle when it comes to all things related to power outages. I've been bragging about you all over the country with the work that you're doing in California. What better way to really make that robust than having something handheld that has batteries in it that could help people, navigate all the intricacies behind the power outages?
I'm Bruce. Yeah. It would be really interesting to see if other cities have adopted, other counties have adopted. I have not. That is so impressive.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. The other thing, June, I know this is a California thing, but with the banning of all low horsepower motors, engines, gasoline engines, that's going to kick off our people that need generators, home generators. They're not going to be available for our consumers. And the only thing left is going to be the battery things like the Yeti or the GenArc, the battery bank units. The state of California is supposed to outlaw those, I think, by 2022. So people with disabilities, all those home generators, most of them run about maximum 25 horsepower, and it falls right in that low horsepower area that Governor Newsom wanted to get rid of. So it's kind
I
of.
hope they make an exemption, Bruce. This is Todd. I really do. I think that the life saving needs to come far above lawnmowers and other horsepower stuff. People are already up in arms about those issues. But when it comes to mandatory power outages, I really hope and pray for not just California, but everybody who learns your lessons there. I mean, yeah, a lot of folks even have their generators running on natural gas, which is a really low carbon footprint in comparison.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's life saving. Let's face it.
Let's back up a second. It's a law now, or is it still being considered? Is it passed or not passed yet?
I think he signed it.
He did sign it, and there's no waiver for emergency generators. Is that
I haven't read the whole bill. Somebody just put up a link to an MSN story, it looks like.
Yeah, this is Dan,
Dan
from CFILC. Yeah, I just saw something in our local news in our NBC station. Looks like it's 2028 is the phase out of them.
So there would be plenty of time to build in a legislative exemption for defining very narrowly an emergency generator.
And it was AB 1346 by Assemblyman Mark Berman and Assemblywoman Lorena Gonzalez.
We need to put that on the list, Dan.
Yep.
Yeah, at least this is Todd. At least the exemption. My hope is that if we put enough pressure on them, that they're going to have to come up with something even more reliable than the generator. The likelihood that that's going to happen, I wouldn't be willing to bet my life on it. So the exemption would be at the very minimum. If I was law enforcement or whoever's going to try and enforce these things, I don't think I could give somebody a ticket for running a generator to power whatever life-saving equipment that they have in their home. But again, what the ripple effect would be is that people wouldn't be able to get parts for easily. I mean, we're seeing that happen right now. That supply chain issues.
Well, let me just check in. We only have about 6 minutes left. Shana, you're saying the poll is not working today. Is that correct?
Hi, June. That is correct.
Okay, so I'm going to repost the link, the SurveyMonkey link. So if you all could indulge us with giving your feedback regarding today's call, that would really help us out. And, this has been a very wide-ranging discussion, really fascinating. And it so informs some of the other work we're doing, our legislative work, our advocacy work with developers, generator exemptions, the fact that Safe and Well isn't working like we thought it was, the really best, I don't ever use this term, but I will today, the best practice that Bruce talked about in terms of that San Bernardino app. Wow. I don't know if y'all know this, but you all can capture all the info in the chat. There's a little thing at the bottom of your chat with 3 dots, I think. And let's see, if you click on it, it'll say save chat, and then you can save it to your computer because there's a wealth of information on today's chat. And I know Cameron will also help us to get this attached to next to the recording that will go up. So,
hey, June.
Bruce?
Just another thought. I know that this is Orange County, but I know Orange County has stated that they will take text messages to their 911 operators now. I don't know how many counties are doing that. I don't even know if San Bernardino County does it. which is where I am now. But I wonder if you could just enter that into the Ready SB app as 911 and send a message to 911 with your address, saying that you need help. I don't know, it's a thought.
I think that's called Next Generation 911, where they do take text, and you do have to check out whether that's working in your local area or not. Next Generation 911. Interesting. Anyone else? Well, thank y'all. I know I learned a lot, and there's a lot of good information to think about in chat today. So I'm gonna save it.
Jim, could I quickly add to a little quick plug for Thursday, the 28th? That's our California Disaster Strategies Coalition systems change call. It is at the exact same time and on the exact same channel. If you have the link for this meeting, you've got the link for that meeting. It's at 10:30 on October 28th. And I'm looking forward to continuing the conversation that we've started about putting together a list of compiled resources that you are already using, and also now continuing the conversation about how can we make kind of a dream list, perhaps, of what we see as gaps. And I'm thinking that hopefully, as we move along in that conversation, some of them somebody will say, "Oh, there's this that we could, say is good for that." But in some cases, I think Todd, thank you for mentioning Code for America. They are an organization that works to do good social justice coding and programming. So perhaps that's a natural fit and somewhere that we can connect to.
And as Todd said, we have a lot of homework that we've created for ourselves here, which is, usually the case. So that's a very good thing. And one last reminder, these apps do come and go. So as I was preparing for this call, there were several apps under my emergency folder in my phone that didn't work anymore. And when I went to update them, they were gone, or they cost money, or they reinvented themselves to be something totally different. So this is definitely a shelf life issue with every app. So thank you all for joining us today. It was a robust and great learning experience. So see you again in December, and on that Thursday call that Russell mentioned, which will be on October 28th. Bye-bye.